Good evening. Thank you all for joining us tonight. Get some feedback. I'll keep going. I'm Dan O'Donnell, Town Engineer for North Reading. We're here tonight to talk about the Haverhill Street at Chestnut Street Intersection project. I have with me Lieutenant Derek Howe and TECR consultant who is finalizing the design. And without further ado, I think we'll have Tom Finland of TEC take us through the presentation we have up here.
Thanks, Dan. My name is Tom Quinlan, as Dan said. I'm a senior engineer at TEC. With me tonight is also Rana Islamabad. Did that right? Okay. All right. She's a traffic engineer with us. And yes, here we are talking about Haverhill Street and Chestnut Street. I know all of you have probably been through this intersection many a times and live in the area and don't like to go through there sometimes. It can be a very tough intersection. I drove through it today and I was stuck for a while. So here we are tonight. We're going to present this project to you and where we've been, where we are today, where we're going to go in the future. Yeah. So the project area. This is the limits of the project extends, and just so everybody orients themselves correctly, Haverhill Street kind of runs north-south. It's a little bit northeast, southwest, but we're going to call that north-south. Chestnut Street to the left of Haverhill Street, we're going to call Chestnut Street west going forward, just so everybody has a good idea. And to the right of Haverhill Street is Chestnut Street east. Roughly, it's about 100 feet of reconstruction along Chestnut Street west, 250 feet along Haverhill Street, and about 850 feet of Chestnut Street east down to Heritage Way down here in the bottom right corner. We'll get into exactly what's being proposed and where we're going to go from here. So how did we get to this point? How did we get to tonight? Okay. In the spring of 2021, the town retained TEC to conduct a study of 4 different locations and an intersection study. And that was completed in October 2021 and presented to the town and the select board in December of 2021, on December 6th of 2021. The select board voted to proceed with the preliminary the findings that we had from the intersection study, and it was decided upon that Haverhill at Chestnut Street would be the prime. We're going to move forward with this part of this intersection first. Eventually, possibly all 4 of them will come in, but that's the main one we need. So that from there, we obtained some topographic survey. You may have seen some of our surveyors over the last couple years and months out on the site getting topographic survey on Chestnut Street and Haverhill Street. And a preliminary design was submitted to the town in May of 2022. Part of that preliminary design was a kind of a conceptual estimate to get a budgetary number on how much design and construction would be for the rest of the project. Now, again, we were just at a conceptual stage. In June of 2022, final design and construction funds were appropriated at annual town meeting. It was voted on by all of you. I'm sure you were all there. As an article warrant. From there, in conversations with the town, based on our original findings and based on the location of what we had for a project before, there was and I'll get into this a little bit more, but there was a little bit of a gap in between that intersection and where Heritage Way is. And so, it was decided upon that we were going to also seek extra funds, not we, but the town would have some extra funds for a sidewalk to continue down to Heritage Way and, complete the pedestrian network. I'll get into that a little bit more as we go along. From there, we've been working on our design. We've been getting more topographic survey. We've been, working on our final design, and that brings us to here, September 2023. Here you all are. Next slide, again. So we're going to talk about the preliminary intersection study real quickly. Completed by TEC in October 21, as I mentioned. There were 4 intersections that we looked at: Haverhill at Chestnut, Park and Central, Central at North, Park Concord and Southwood. All 4 of them, I'm sure you've all been through. I'm sure you all had a tough time getting through there, and there could be some troublesome spots in each one. And what our study identified was existing traffic operational and safety challenges. We looked at, is there pedestrian accommodations? Is there bicycle accommodations at each intersection? What's the signage like? Is the signage, a little out of date, a little faded, things like that? The intersection geometry. Are we optimizing? Are we optimizing the way that we can move through the intersection? So that's what our study looked at. And then part of our study was to look at short, mid, and long range recommendations for each location and come up with a budgetary number for how much it would cost to, reconstruct or whatever we'd like to do at each intersection. And so from there, it was decided upon that Haverhill and Chestnut would be the focus. Each one of them has their own challenges, but as my good friend Amy said over here earlier, she won't even drive through that. So we want her to drive. So let's make sure she can drive through. So Haverhill and Chestnut Street was the focus. So what's today's challenges? So some of the things that we looked at as part of the study, we conducted site visits, we took site distance calculations, all sorts of stuff. I don't want to get into it and bore you too much tonight, but so some of the things that we had seen at the intersection is, first off, the intersection alignment. It's very difficult, right? If you're along Chestnut Street on the west side and Chestnut Street on the east side, normally those two should line up, right? Even if they're at a skew to your main road, which would be in this case Haverhill Street, they should line up, right? So that you can move straight across the intersection. Well, they don't. They're about 70 feet apart, which causes, for example, if you're on Chestnut Street East and you're driving up to Haverhill Street and you want to continue on Chestnut Street West, you have to take a left turn, but then take a right turn real quickly. It can be a very difficult move. And as you know, the traffic can move pretty fast through that area too, okay? And there's a lot of traffic because of the location next to, Ipswich River Park, Town Common, the high school, the bachelor school, right here at the Flint Library. So we're all in that area. So there's a lot of cars coming through there. There's no crosswalks. If you were a pedestrian and you were walking from your house on Heritage Way and you wanted to get to the sidewalk that currently exists on Haverhill and Chestnut Street West, how would you get there? Right? You gotta walk in the street. You have to cross this busy road, this very strange intersection, offset from one another. Where do you go? How do you get there? There's nothing there today, so you got to risk your life to get there. Something you probably don't want to do. To the east on Chestnut Street, there's flashing lights at the intersection. The visibility to see those is very difficult due to the curve right at the end just before you get to the intersection. So even though there is flashers there today, it's hard to see them. You come upon them if you're coming down Chestnut Street, you're not aware of the area and you're not aware of the things you're coming into. By the time you get there, it's already happened. That can lead to some dangerous situations. This intersection typically has 3 times the statewide average rate of crashes. So in Massachusetts, we look at the statewide and also what's MassDOT districts, which this is in District 4. Both of them were 3 times the average unsignalized intersection in Massachusetts in the district. It's not very safe, as you may know. Okay, this intersection was part of the HSIP program. Also, HSIP is the Highway Safety Improvement Program. I had to write that one down a few times. And it was eligible for federal and state funding at one point. However, it has fallen off in the last couple of years, maybe because people are driving a little bit safer. Not sure, but it's not on the list today. So that's not eligible for funding that it used to be. And as you come to the intersection, there's restricted sight distances. pull up to Chestnut Street, you look to your left, look to your right, cars are moving fast on Haverhill Street, you know, you know, the openings at Chestnut Street are very wide. Okay, so like, for example, on Chestnut Street West, as you pull forward, it's very wide to take a right on Haverhill Street South or Haverhill Street North. People tend to pull up and form two lanes, even though it's really one lane of traffic. When they form two lanes, then it makes it a little bit more difficult to try to see down the road a little bit. Very difficult sight distances. And as I've said, the vehicle delays there's a lot of traffic. Okay, a lot of people are traveling down Chestnut Street, trying to get to the town common, to the high school, to the park. There is traffic there all the time, and especially in the afternoon, especially on Chestnut Street. And one thing that's not on this slide is that, and I kind of mentioned it before, but one thing is that the speed limit on Haverhill Street is 35 miles per hour. Cars normally travel 43 miles per hour on that street. So you're already 8 miles per hour faster than the existing speed limit. If not more. It's dangerous. It's dangerous. You know, and I understand Haverhill Street is an arterial, right? Everybody gets 262 down towards Wilmington and down that way. Chestnut Streets are what are called collectors, right? If you think about somebody's heart, and our arterial collectors are like your veins, okay? They feed your arteries. So there's just a lot of things going on in this intersection. And also, there's a missing sidewalk connection. There are sidewalks down on Heritage Way. There's nothing until you get to Haverhill and Chestnut, as I've already said. Next one, Dan. So some of the recommendations that we have: a short-term, mid-term, and long-term, right? As we stated. The short-term recommendations were to restripe curbing extensions, remove the concrete island only on Chestnut Street West, and if you've been there, it's very small. It's probably about not even the size of this table. And relocation of the existing overhead flasher and advanced signage to that flasher. The existing overhead flasher is currently in a non-MUTCD, and MUTCD is kind of like our Bible. It's the manual and uniform traffic control devices. It's what we live by. Rhonda knows it very well. And it's out of compliance with that. So we'd have to look at relocating that overhead flasher and providing more advanced signage to it so that people know that they're coming to a dangerous intersection. The midterm recommendations was removing the islands at both sides, right? At Chestnut East and Chestnut West, and realigning Chestnut Street, building an ADA compliant sidewalk and pedestrian curb ramp so that people could get around and do it a little bit more safely. The realignment of Chestnut Street would help offset the intersection even more than it is today. And what it would do is provide space that you need. The thing is today they're a little bit too close, even though they're separated, they're a little bit too close together. We want them separated a little bit more, you know, obviously without taking somebody's house or anything like that. We don't want that. But we want to work within the public work right away. And then the long term was the midterm improvements with a fully actuated traffic signal. Okay. I look at this and I say, long term is the Cadillac, midterm is the Buick, short term is the Chevy. What would you want? I know what I would want. I want the Caddy. Caddy all day for me. Okay. So the town believes the same thing. DPW believes the same thing. We want this intersection to be safe as possible. And this is the way to do it. Go ahead, Jim. Sure.
My name is Rich Stratton, 16 Marshall. Marshall is on just the short-term solution. If you go with the long-term solution, does that include all of the solutions above it?
Yes. Actually, the short-term solution kind of goes away because once you start changing curb lines and geometry in the intersection, the striping wouldn't be the same. So the the short term goes away, and then the mid and long term is really just realigning the intersection and changing the geometry, adding sidewalks. Well, the long term is, well, on top of that, let's put a traffic signal in instead of just having, you know, similar to today, stops at on either end of Chestnut Street.
Okay, my question is, I'm also the quartermaster adjutant of the VFW in town here.
Mhm.
And there is a veterans memorial
Mhm.
on that island.
Yes,
So you plan to relocate?
yes, that will be relocated as part of the project. No problem. Thank you. So here's you go back one. Yeah, sir. Here's our proposed long-term improvements, okay? As we talked about, and as we looked at in our study, is removing the median islands at either side of Chestnut, formalizing the pedestrian crossings, installing a new traffic signal. It won't be red in real life, but we made them red. You can see the red lines on there. That's the traffic signal that we put so far. As part of the relocation and shifting of the intersection geometry on Chestnut Street East, kind of gives us a little area for potential landscape. I know that today, the existing island that has the VFW memorial on it has some plantings and flowers on it. Well, now we have an area to relocate those, put new plantings in. A new sidewalk along Chestnut Street that eventually will connect down to Heritage Way. We'll show you that in a second. And we want to make sure that, you know, the existing stone walls along Chestnut Street East on the side there, we want to make sure that those are kept. We don't want to get rid of those. Those are beautiful.
Yeah, they are. They are.
But we don't want to ruin them. We don't want to ruin them. Okay. Sure.
That's the hash area where Chestnut is, Chestnut West, it's Haverhill South. Is that so trucks can make the turn?
That is so trucks can make the turn.
It seems like cars will also make 2 lanes there and take that.
Yeah, that's one of the drawbacks. There is the possibility that we could put flexible posts up. You know,
Gotcha.
Again, we're still working towards final design. You know, so we do have some time that maybe there's something else that we can do. Maybe raised island, but you know, we want to make sure that trucks can also safely turn down Haverhill Street. So very true.
And you're not gonna expand the sidewalk on Haverhill Street, going towards Reading, right? That's
No,
just
down to the left.
South.
No,
Yeah,
right.
and so-
Now leaving Haverhill Street south, high and dry.
Yes.
You know, it's lovely sidewalks if you're north or east. But if
Exactly.
you're south.
I live on Haverhill Street and I had a bunch of crashes the past 2 years, right in front of my house. I'm right off New Street. So, and having no sidewalk is definitely a big issue for me.
Yeah, I'm on Necklace Farm, which is.
It's right, yeah.
Nice sidewalks on Necklace Farm. But
But the road's really narrow and too.
yeah, yeah, a lot of cyclists.
Yeah. And
A
the
lot of-
poles and all.
Have they ever considered taking the poles and putting all that underground so a lot of people crash into them?
The poles were actually removed from Haverhill Street completely. We had a few crashes and I called Verizon and they were all removed, at least from my side of the street.
Necklace Farm, that's been hit like 2 or 3 times in the last 5 years, so it's still there.
You're still there, so
That one pole that
yeah,
keeps
they
getting hit.
took about 2 or 3 posts out of my side of the street, so.
We have a question from Zoom.
So I have a comment from Zoom first. What happened to the volume? So when you're in the audience, all I'm gonna ask is that you try and project your voice a little bit because the people on Zoom aren't hearing the questions very well. There is a question here. It says, what if we block the end of Chestnut Street West so that it didn't feed into Haverhill and directed traffic to New Street?
New Street's already a problem.
As part of our study, we did look at that, whether we could make Chestnut Street West a one-way, then bring all the traffic down to New Street, but then that kind of has its own problems too, right? Now you've kind of just shifted the problem down into the same type of intersection that kind of comes in at a skew, has some sight distance issues. So, you know, we looked at that too, and we didn't think that that was really feasible to do. Yes, sir.
The beautiful stone walls you referred to a moment ago.
Yes.
They're right in front of my house.
Okay,
Could you explain how close that sidewalk will be to the stone wall?
which house is yours?
114.
Which one's that?
I think it's.
The only one with the stone wall.
Where it's the sidewalk, I think. Check the sidewalks from.
Well, I understand,
Yeah.
it's 122 Chestnut.
Yeah, but that's not the
Right,
sidewalk
right.
is that he's describing.
Okay, so I'm just trying to figure, this map's kind of confusing. So I'm
Yeah,
trying to figure out exactly where you guys are, where I am. So
I think you're where it says install traffic. You're right on the corner, right?
I'm right there, yeah.
I think it's where it says install traffic signal.
Right, and then where are you guys?
We're right where it says new sidewalk.
And between.
Oh, okay, that's where you guys, so you're like right across the street.
Yeah.
If you're down here, sidewalk, as you know, the edge of the road is pretty close. Basically, the edge of the road is gonna be our new 5.5 foot sidewalk. So you see the edge of the road, that's where the new curb's going, 5.5 feet from there. Ultimately, it's probably, the stone wall's probably 8 feet, I'd say, from there. So there will be a little bit of a gap, 3 to 4 feet, I'd say, between the back of the sidewalk and the stone wall itself.
With granite curb.
Granite curb.
Thank you.
Well, yes, sir.
Yeah, I've been looking on New Street, the number of people who take that left at 43 miles an hour, and I lost cat. I take my life into my hands every time I pull out of my driveway. Is there any thought of directing more traffic towards Chestnut Street? I guess would be from the other question, because it's really like the number of, like, I literally see people pull out and almost get hit or get hit on a weekly basis. And I'm not spending that much time looking at it. So it's very dangerous people pulling out there and you cannot see anything.
I don't disagree with you. I think we need to focus on this intersection. New Street is very nice, but I think this one's the one we need to focus on.
So question on Zoom?
So there's two questions here. The first one is, just what is the process to get this passed?
Process to get,
I believe the question is, what is the process to get this passed? So you can type if I'm incorrect. You're asking, what is the process to get this approved and done? Is that the question?
yeah, so this has been approved, anticipated final design this fall, bid over the winter and construction starting spring 2024.
So it has already been approved.
The funding has been approved and the design is happening now. So we're taking comments tonight. There might be some things that, we can incorporate if we think that they would improve traffic flow and safety. But there are, maybe some other things that, like additional sidewalks, we don't have additional funding for. Perhaps they make sense and perhaps that would come at another time or something of that nature. But we're working with funding for this particular area and just recently added the heritage sidewalk and that's the extent of the sidewalk work at the moment.
So a comment made was traffic comes in on Chestnut rather fast and doesn't realize what they are coming into or on until it is too late. Is there any consideration of advanced warning signs that there is a red light ahead signage like other communities use?
Yes, there will be advanced warning signs, especially on Chestnut Street East, considering just the way that it kind of meanders towards the end. It can be a little bit difficult to see, but yes, there will be advanced signage.
Has anyone considered putting in removable speed bumps on Haverhill Street, which can be pulled up during the winter to slow traffic down? It's more like 50 miles per hour average.
Well, now you got to think that there is a traffic signal there. Okay. Today, there is no traffic control on Haverhill Street. There is no stops. There is nothing. It's just Chestnut Street. Now there will be a big giant red light that tells you to stop. So.
Excuse me, was there any consideration of trying to get Chestnut to go straight across?
There was, but ultimately, I think it was because of the angle that we had. And bringing the roadway down towards, this house on the corner of Chestnut and Haverhill Street would be a little bit, the site distance would make it a little bit worse. You know, typically you wanna, your side roads wanna tee into at a 90-degree angle to your main road. So to skew it a little bit more, to bring it down more, wouldn't be the greatest thing to do. As engineers, we don't like to do the greatest thing to do. We want to make you guys happy.
So quick question, where the traffic signal is on Chestnut Street, right?
Yes.
That's right where I live.
Yep.
There's no pedestrian crossing. I love to go to the Ocean River Park. I walk there every day. And for me to walk out of my driveway and go down Haverhill Street, it's a crapshoot, you know, whether somebody's going to speed across that intersection. So I don't see any way, like, you have the formalized pedestrian crossings. Is there any chance of a crosswalk or anything that goes at the end of, you know, Chestnut Street West?
You know, it's something we could look at, talk to the town about. I mean, again,
Yeah, I'm just on that little island. Haverhill, you know, Chestnut and New Street, and there's only 2 homes on that street, but, you know, it's like, you're secluded, so, but.
So we don't usually do the crosswalk, like, between the traffic signal, because of, like, you know, we want to make the pedestrian visible to, like, cars.
Right.
So based on the UTC, we want to have, like, the crosswalk for the traffic, right? So something that, then vehicle approach, we can see it. So we take picture look at that, and like, this was, this crossing that.
So not for me.
So you say it's already been funded. Did we get funded for the Cadillac, or the Buick, or the Chevy?
You got the Cadillac.
All right.
You voted for it. It's all you. The other question. Yes, sir.
When there's a red light during peak traffic flow, how far of the car can back up here on the street each time?
Oh, you're asking a question that's coming. You're ahead of me. You're ahead of me. That's Rhonda's department. We'll let her handle that. Then you can yell at her.
Was there another slide that you were going to talk to?
Yeah.
Well, 2 more.
There's a couple more.
Is it also the case that, if I understand it correctly, that it's going to be like a 3-phase signal or something like this, so that, you know, direct green this way, then green this way, then green this way?
So there's a few more slides, so why don't we let them finish up so that we can then get to the question.
I'd like to go home.
They may be answered before you ask them.
All right.
I appreciate the questions. But anyway, that's kind of what we're seeing at the intersection of Chestnut and Haverhill. And we want to go to the next slide. And also, we're going to continue the sidewalk down to Heritage Way. It wouldn't make sense if we did all this work as part of, if we did the midterm, right, the Buick. We did the Buick and we put sidewalks at the intersection. We didn't connect it anywhere, right? Pedestrian connectivity is everything in this case. So we're going to continue the sidewalk, and you guys voted for it at the annual town meeting this year, down to Heritage Way and the sidewalks that are down there. There'll be some reconstructed driveways, but we're looking to retain the existing stone walls. We're going to try to protect and retain as many trees as possible, specifically down this end towards Heritage Way. There's some trees that are right off the road. We're going to do the best that we can to protect and retain those. And then there'll be new pedestrian crossings across Heritage Way to connect people that are on Heritage Way to get up towards the park, towards the town common, towards the high school.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, because I know some of these questions apply to people that are impacted more closely. Yep. When you say things like reconstructed driveway, what does that mean?
That means, well, we need to have ADA compliancy, okay? Americans with Disabilities Act. We need to have ADA and what's called Massachusetts Architectural Access Board compliancy through that driveway. So somebody who is in a wheelchair that may be traveling down this road, they need to have a flat surface to be able to go across. So we need to reconstruct that driveway because now you have a sidewalk there. It's not just an open driveway that, you know, maybe is a big hill, but now it's going to be flat so that somebody in a wheelchair, somebody with low sight visibility can walk through safely. So reconstructing the driveway is really just at the end and kind of melding in your driveway to the new sidewalk that's there. Okay. It's not like you get a whole brand new driveway, I'm sorry.
No, we already have that. That's actually the point. Just put in a new brand new driveway that was pitched, so the water didn't go into our driveway. So I guess at some point we'll have a discussion of like, if that impacts it. Second question to that, with the sidewalk, there are mailboxes along that section, the mailboxes moved.
Yes, they're gonna be, if they need to be, they will be relocated. Most likely, they'll be relocated in the sidewalk because that's USPS standards.
So the town takes that on under construction.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
All right, I'm gonna turn it over to Rana. She's gonna talk to you about the traffic signal.
So just back to why we are going with the traffic signal. The study that was done in 2021, we took the existing traffic volumes and then based on our industry standards in MUTCD, we looked at the signal warrant analysis and also always stop control analysis. And both of these intersection controls were warranted. But looking at the geometry and also the number of crashes occurred at this intersection, a signal was a better option here. And also looking at the delay and operating condition, the signal was reducing the delay and it was providing a better operating condition. If we go to the next slide. So we have an analysis tool that we can model and simulate the existing condition. We can basically design intersection in the software and analyze it and assign traffic lanes and also traffic volumes into the analysis tool and see how it operates. We had 2021 base year, which is currently under stop sign control, and there are flashers that helps to aware drivers of the stop control, and also 2020 signal analysis that we are basically looking at in the future and see how the intersection works with construction of the signal. We take a look at weekday morning peak hour and weekday evening peak hour, looking at the left side of the table. These are the critical hours. So you see that during weekday morning from usually 7 to 9 a.m. and in the evening between 4 to 6 p.m. Based on the existing traffic volumes, 7 to 8 and 4 to 5 was the most congested time that this intersection is experienced. From there, we take a look at different approaches and all the turning movements. Right now, you can see Chestnut Street, eastbound left turn and eastbound right turn. That right now you can have an exclusive left and right, but in the future it's going to be a shared left and through. Based on the analysis, we get results and we take a look at elements like volume to capacity ratio, the delay, which is additional time that driver is experiencing beyond what is the actual travel time. Level of service is actually the quality of the service. Level of service A is the best condition, and level of service F is an elevated and is the worst. The queue length is what you just asked about. So now we have the results of both of these analysis conditions. As you can see under existing condition, we have eastbound and westbound movements, which are on Chestnut Street under level of service E and F in the morning and F for both of the eastbound and westbound movements. With really long delays, 250 seconds. This is based on the analysis results. It might be higher or less in real time. But in the future, you can see that these movements are operating under level of service C or better, which is really acceptable and overall, the intersection gonna operate under limit of service speed. This is like an average, so this tells you that some of the movements might get to the red light, but overall intersection and all the movements are experiencing incident between 10 seconds to 20 seconds. This might raise this question that, are we making Haverhill Street approach worse? Yes, it's gonna add some delay to Haverhill Street approach, but overall intersection is becoming more safe. Eastbound and westbound approaches on Chestnut Street are able to make the turn and they can have their own phase. So this is gonna reduce intersection overall delay. And also, this is gonna occur during weekday morning and evening peak hour. So for the rest of the day, Haverhill Street can get more green time, but during the peak hour when Chestnut Street has higher demand, the signal can detect that and can assign more green time to Chestnut Street approach. So if we go to the next
Question about actually, this is for eastbound, so Chestnut Street eastbound is what we were calling before, Chestnut Street west, is that correct? Okay.
Yes.
Because the people heading east,
Yes.
it's on the west side, okay.
So if we go to the next slide. So some of the signal features, so we talked about having a signal and talking about Chestnut Street is going to get more green time, but how do we detect that? This is demand-based operation, including peak hour timing plan. So we can tell signal that we want to have this timing plan from 7 to 8, and then signal can operate that, and after that time, it's gonna be like free operation, and it's gonna give the green time to the approach that has the demand. But how do we get that demand? There's gonna be a video detection cameras that is only detect vehicle movements and bicycle movements. They're not gonna capture any license plates or anything, but when the camera detects the car movement, it's gonna tell the controller for the signal that there's gonna be a demand for this approach. So basically, if Chestnut Street eastbound or Chestnut Street west has 600 vehicles, the camera gonna tell that Chestnut Street west is gonna get more green time if Chestnut Street east gonna have less travel demand. One of the other features are pedestrian, audible, and vibratory push buttons. So the signal can detect head crossings based on the pedestrian calls, and this is when you push the button. So that's how it's the signal gonna give the pedestrian the walk time. Some of the other features are emergency vehicle preemptions. So right now, Chestnut Street approach gonna suffer from excessive delay, and emergency vehicles are gonna be in this queuing. But right now, but with the proposed signal construction, the signal can assign the green time to the approach that is that meets the green time for emergency vehicles. I talked about this a little bit. The signal timing can have split phasing for Chestnut Street, eastbound and westbound will operate separate. If each of them has different travel demand, so the green time can go to that approach. And again, this is going to be during weekday, evening, morning and evening peak hour, or Saturday midday, depends on the travel demand. This was yeah. So the final slide talks about the steps that we're gonna take. So in fall 2023, we are gonna complete our final design, and from there in winter 23-24, we're gonna have the project bidding, and when the project goes to the contractor, and beginning of April 24, we're expecting to start the construction. And in December 24, 24, we're expecting to have the intersection fully constructed for the final stage of the design. So from there, if you have any questions or comments about traffic part?
We have a question online. We live at 124 Chestnut Street. The traffic currently is very congested. What efforts will be made to address the significant increase to traffic congestion, especially to the residents who live near the intersection? There will be a constant line of cars, making it impossible. Making it impossible for us to get to our home or in and out of our driveway.
Are you in Chestnut Street?
She said 124 Chestnut.
So there's going to be less delay on Chestnut Street anyway, so the queue is going to get reduced, and any more queuing is going to be on Haverhill Street, which can be retained within Haverhill Street. It's not going to impact.
So I think that address is on the corner of Chestnut and U Street, right there in the corner.
So if we go back to the table, I can. Oh, I'm sorry, I wrote it down. To the table. So right now, Chestnut Street westbound is 478 feet, which is about 17 vehicles.
Chestnut Street is bad.
Yeah.
That address is Chestnut Street is bad.
So there are 4 cars, and with the signal, it's going to be roughly 4 cars in the queue, so it's not going to be extended more.
Well, I think part of the plus side for this is that the cars, now that there's a signalized light there, you're gonna have a period of vehicles there, then you're gonna have a green light, and then they're gonna clear out. So then you'll have the ability to get into access your driveways or anything like that. So as opposed to before now where traffic can back up because nobody wants to let anyone go out of Chestnut Street, then the light is gonna take care of that. So that hopefully will be alleviate some of those problems. The other thing is, once the lights are in place, the police department is going to have the ability to monitor to see where they are, and then we can work with the engineers to get the timing patterns more specialized so that they work in a better fashion. But that's going to be, I think, it's actually going to make Chestnut Street better on either side because you're not going to have those long delays of nobody can get across.
Where would you monitor it from? Because we've asked you guys to come down and monitor it for years, and it doesn't seem like it's slowed anybody down.
Yeah, so we have some options. It's not a great intersection to monitor, but we now have drone capabilities. So I can have somebody set up a drone and put it on the intersection itself. We haven't always had those capabilities, and before anyone starts asking for it, we don't have it all the time either. But we can put that out.
Is that through the speed too?
No, it won't do speed. It's just more to get an overhead picture so we can see if there's traffic delays or not. Hold on one second.
So I guess my question would be, I live in Haverhill Street, so if I go onto New Street, is the traffic going to back up so people won't be able to get on New Street onto Chestnut Street? Or are they saying with the light sequencing, you won't get that backup like you get now?
Yeah, I don't think you're gonna get that backup. Yeah, that's the light will alleviate that as you're coming out.
Just to get that backup, would it be possible to, in some places to like hash out an area, be like, block intersections?
Love to. People don't pay attention to those, but sure.
They don't, but block the box.
It's possible to do just timing based on like travel, travel demand. And also like Chestnut Street is going to experience like 20 seconds of delay the most. So this is like for the worst condition. So even if driveway is blocked, it's going to be for like 20 seconds and for only a course of 1 hour per day or 2 hours per day. It's not going to be like 24 hours. So just to answer the question, if it's going to block the driveway or not.
But we can't expect speed limit to decrease with the lights, correct?
Yes.
On both sides of
there are going to be signage that with every new signal, there are gonna be signage for each of the approaches that, you're approaching the signal, so that would also help reducing the speed, especially on Chestnut Street, which right now is under stop control. But with the change of the, intersection control, we're gonna put signage there to tell them that there's gonna be a signal.
Any chance of putting like a no beat zone in there? Cause everyone corner, that's all I hear. Every morning is.
There'll be less speeding every day.
Less speeding. I mean, that's grand already.
Well, that's too, so
You have a question?
Will there be any no turn on red signs?
there are gonna be no turn on red sign
Everywhere?
on Chestnut Street, on Chestnut.
On Chestnut Street, okay. What about, directional greens on Haverhill Street? Will there be a left
Yes,
green
it's
and a
gonna-
left green up coming up Haverhill Street?
So the signage right now are gonna be flash, a green flash for Chestnut Street approaches because they're not straight, so the signal indication gonna direct the direction of the travel.
But you're not gonna have a dedicated turn lane.
You won't have dedicated turn, I understand. So, but I guess if you're trying to make a left off Haverhill, you're still gonna have to wait for all the oncoming traffic to be able to do that. Right?
Is that right? Because I think, did you say it would have its own separate light? It's
No, Haverhill Street will
separate
be-
phase,
will have one
so
green.
Chestnut eastbound gonna go first and then Chestnut.
Well, but Haverhill Street is one green, I thought.
Yeah. And they're gonna be optical, traffic lights that, you're not able to see it in Chestnut Street,
Right,
it's on
right.
green, so.
Thank you.
Have they considered putting roofs into Haverhill Street to alert drivers of the lights or to slow down?
They're gonna do signage too.
So there's going to be signage there
On
on Haverhill Street. Have they considered putting grooves into Haverhill Street to alert drivers to slow down?
Bubble strips.
So I think if you go to Park and Central now, the signage that is there is going to be very similar to the signage that will be at this intersection. So no, it should be, if people are paying attention, that's a big if, you should have plenty of warning. Sir.
Will it have like one of those big yellow flashes for the kids to be able to cross safely, like some other communities have?
And there's gonna be a signalized pedestrian light, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's gonna work with the traffic signal, so the light will be red for them to get the crosswalk.
Yeah, there's an exclusive phase for the pedestrian. So the pedestrian comes up to the light, presses the button, everybody goes red, they're allowed to cross.
But I think what he's referring to is like there's signage for the crosswalk that's digitized with lighting on it. Will that be part
So
of what is included?
pedestrian is gonna have countdowns.
Yeah, so normally what you're talking about is when there's not a light that also, a traffic light that would also incorporate that.
Okay.
That would be a standalone crosswalk that would give you those yellow flashers.
Sure.
This is gonna be in conjunction. Everyone's gonna have a red light. They can't go. So then you can get cross.
Super, thank you.
Now, is that gonna be just on demand in the moment? So, 7:30, 8 o'clock, two school kids come, hit it, everyone stops red, they get to cross. 20 seconds later, some more kids come, hit it again.
They won't, it'll signalize through the timing. So the pedestrians will have to wait until they get the light.
Because those standalone pedestrian crossings that you see some of the cross major highways are like on demand, which is grand, but it
The
would.
signal needs to finish the cycle, when you first push the button, and then for the next cycle, it's gonna sign the.
That's fine.
to the-
Otherwise, that could completely derail this whole thing. It's just. You have a few mischievous kids are gonna.
Yeah, so you won't get on-
I gotta say. Mine's 7, he'll be,
Hitting all the floor buttons.
mine's 7, you'll be having support with them. Probably, so. I'm the only bike rider that you guys don't need.
Any other questions?
Once we get the final plans and design, I'd be happy to meet any residents out there with, driveway questions or mailbox relocation. If my email is right on the engineering
That's Dan O'Donnell.
website. Been here almost a year.
Goes back up.
If there's no more questions,
All set on Zoom, Amy?
No more questions here.
All right, well, thank you all very much. Appreciate you coming down and really seeing what the designs look like at this point. And again, if you have any other additional comments, questions,
One question.
okay, we do have something.
What are the small red devices on Haverhill Street near the crosswalk?
That's a traffic
Those
signal.
are the traffic lights, just shown in red, just so they stick out, so you can see them. They're not actually going to be red if you're wondering.
All right, so that indicates the traffic lights. All right, thanks again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.